Okay.
With the final Splatfest on the way, and the hype for this game reaching a new peak, I thought it was about time I made a video like this. Hello everybody, my name is TheKeyTime15, and I am not a Splatuber or really an avid fan of this game, as you can tell from my modest level of skill. Splatoon 2 released back on July 21st of 2017, and it was one of the biggest multiplayer Switch exclusives upon its release, and it still is today. Now back then, I had barely had my Switch for more than just a few weeks, and the only game I really had on it was good old Breath of the Wild. And I wanted something new that I could play with my friends. My online friends. I don't really have any, real friends or anything. So one day after work, I picked it up, and that's where it all started for me. So let's jump right into this review. The greatest thing about this game has got to be its gameplay. It's something you need to experience for yourself, but what I can tell you is that I love every single aspect of the way the controls work and the different modes you can play. There are many different things you can do, like Beyond Turf War, modes like Clam Blitz, where you have to be the first to score the most clams into a basket as fast as possible. I also really enjoy the separate game mode called Salmon Run, where you team up in squads of 4 with random weapons that you may or may not know how to use. Again, this is coming from someone who hasn't put as much time into the game as others have, but that just adds to the experience for me, and it provides an extra challenge. But this is still only scratching the surface. There's so much more to do in this game. But what I gotta love most about it is the way it makes you work as a team, the way it implements teamwork. You can't win around all on your own. You've got to work together to pull through, which is why it's always important to be in a call with your squad at all times if you want to get the most out of each round. This game has surprised me with how fun it can be from just its gameplay alone, netting it a 10 out of 10. I didn't beat all of Splatoon 2's story. I barely played through some of the first few levels and got pretty bored of it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad story at all. I just didn't feel like playing through all those levels. I know for a fact there's a lot of interesting lore, and that completing all the missions has a very rewarding payoff, but it just didn't pique my interest enough to play it through completely. Then again, my attention span is about as long as a goldfish, so don't take my word for it. Play it through. You may like it a lot, I don't know. And on a side note, I know this is sort of its own thing, but I watched a lot of friends play through Octo Expansion, and I remember loving it. I love the lore behind that game. But since this is based on my personal opinion, I'm gonna have to give Splatoon 2's story about a 4.8 out of 10. This game features a lot of collectability and grinding features. From clothing to weapons, there's a lot of customization that goes into your avatar, with hundreds of different combinations and upgrades, all while keeping your Inkling or Octoling looking fresh. There's a lot of enjoyment that comes out from just grinding it out and earning cash and shopping. There's even a feature that lets you order clothes that other players have. All in all, I love a lot of what this game has to offer. But the number one thing, the greatest thing about this game has got to be the community surrounding it. I can't really consider myself a big name in its community because it's kind of like its own separate thing from the Nintendo community as a whole. So if you really don't think that my opinion matters, or if you don't like what I have to say, then let's hear it from some of the people that dedicate so much of their time to this beautiful game. What do you like most about Splatoon 2?
I think one thing that I value a lot in my Switch games is, replayability. For me personally, I don't really go out and buy every single first-party release. I try to, at least the ones I'm interested in. But, I'm not gonna go spend $60 on a game I'm gonna play for, 5 hours and then never again. I'm all for, the longevity, and I think Splatoon 2 has had a great life cycle. I think it's going to continue to last past this point. I don't think this is the end because there's plenty of content creators that do loads with it. And I don't know, just generally my rule of thumb is that if you can get $1 for every hour, if you can get an hour for every $1 you spend on a Switch game, or any game for that matter, then it's worth it. So, I spent over 200 hours on Splatoon. I'd say I got my $60 worth, definitely.
Yo, I'm Alex, also known as Shock. I like to draw and stuff, and Splatoon is kind of my jam. Well, as for Splatoon, I love the creativity of the game and the bright colors. At first I was apprehensive and didn't want to get into it, but thankfully I did, and now it's my most favorite game of all time. Yes, I love it that much. I like the lore, the character designs, the overall style of the game, the outfits, and the game itself is just so addictive and satisfying. Just inking every last inch of turf satisfies the deepest parts of my OCD.
Ooh, so I'd probably say this kind of like ties in with Splatoon 1, because this is Nintendo's first like shot at a third-person shooter game, and they nailed it, honestly. Like, I mean, it's not like, you know, like your typical run-of-the-mill like shooter game where there's blood and gore and all that stuff, but like they made it their own version, which is why like the Inklings and all that, I think that was like a really good choice to use as their characters. And like Splatoon itself has become so big just because of the game itself, and probably like there's just so much about it that I can really enjoy. But probably if I have to choose one thing, I guess it would be like how easy it is for someone who's never played a shooter before to like come in and experience it, and that way they can get better at like shooter games like, that way.
Should I have worn my JOHNTENDO shirt? My favorite thing about, jeez, that's a question I didn't expect to be asked. I guess it's the frustrating gameplay mostly. That and the people who play the game. Like, I really love the Splatoon community. It's one of those games that like it's addicting in the sense that like I lose enough where, you know, I know that I'm not a god at the game and I can just own anybody in the game, and it makes me want to get better. But you can't, there is no absolute top. Like, there's no, like, I guess, point of absolution for the game. So you'll always get better no matter how much you play. And that's why I'm always, like, going back to the game. And as far as the community is concerned, like, I love everything about the game. Like, I love its art. I love the music. I love the characters. I love how fleshed out like the entire lore of the series is in just 2 games. I mean, there's 2 games, manga, the soundtrack, but you get the point. In just 2 games, there's so much lore. You know, I didn't expect that from, you know, a brand new IP, especially coming from a dying system, the Wii U. So
I would put it at like 10, honestly. Like, it's the game I've enjoyed the most out of anything on the Switch so far, and I think it's gonna stay that way for a little bit. I mean, Mario Maker is really exciting. It's also difficult, though, and I think there's true beauty in a game like Splatoon where you can just kind of sit down and talk and get lost in it.
Well, not that my opinion matters too much, but if you're looking for a game that's colorful, easy to understand, and is multiplayer, I'd go with a solid rating of 8 out of 10. As for my own personal rating for this game, it's like a gajillion out of 10, but I know that I'm a little bit strange.
I'd probably have to give this like a 8.5 or a 9. I give it that because while the game is great with its online and stuff, and like the different modes that it has, actually I gave it this higher rating because like when the inclusion of the Octo expansion for like a story mode kind of, like it implemented like more single player content, and that's something I really appreciated. However, the only like kind of thing that's not really like that doesn't really kind of resonate with me with this with Splatoon 2 is just kind of how would I describe it? Like with like say like online matches, sometimes you can disconnect very easily if one of the consoles is not responding right away. And because Nintendo doesn't have designated servers for any of their online games, it's all reliant on the player and their internet and their Switch console. So if you're playing online and something's wrong with your internet, like all of a sudden like you're kicked out and you have to wait maybe like 5 minutes or something like that. So it's kind of painful like when your internet isn't really cooperating with you and you're trying to play online matches. So that's probably the only downside I would have to say. But otherwise, like Splatoon 2 is a fantastic game. I play it almost every single day, so yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about it.
Well, okay. So if you mean that in the sense of like all games of all time, I'd give it like a solid 5 or 6 because it is very fun and it's like it's team oriented. But if we're just talking about like Nintendo IPs on their own, definitely like at least a solid 8, at least an 8. Like it. Huh? Oh yeah, 8 for Octo exactly. Splatoon is actually my yeah. I love Splatoon more than Pokemon. I think it's safe to say at this point. And Pokemon is what made me really fall in love with Nintendo in the first place. So Yeah.
Alright guys, so that's all the time we got for today. Huge shout out to Splatoon 2 for a big thing on its final Splatfest. It's super exciting, I'm super excited to play. And also a huge shout out to JOHNTENDO, Shock777, KNIGHTSKY, and ELLERY. Thank you guys so much for letting me interview. Check all their stuff out below, guys. And be sure to drop a like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I've been the Kid at 915. Don't get cooked, stay off the hook. Peace out.
The name's Ness, I'm the best. You don't wanna mess with me unless you're top tier G. Me over Lucas, crown eating moveset better than the rest. I digress. Biggest thunder when I'm overhead, yeah. Bigger flash and you're as good as dead, yeah. Bigger fire to the ground, sit down, I'm not going anyway. It's like I'm earthbound. Sound, are you crying to your mother? I'm not gonna turn on you until you can't recover. Let's go another round, energy weapons don't bother. You will also station and grab my vibe to deflect the bet. The better man has a plan to withstand what began as a match, which is now a bloodbath to the math. I'm fucking your voice super psychic ability. You're a cloud, not a brother lacks the ability to go beyond a combat that doesn't involve juggling. It's not the new mechanic. Someday when you will be struggling, but don't you worry, someday you'll get the hang of it. In a rematch for today. Okay, gang, let's get out of here. PK respect.